Hello everybody and welcome to the 2025 Fantasy Football League recap. I know it's already past week 2, but the draft happened right before week 1 and it's been taking a little bit to edit. But either way, here it is. I hope you enjoy. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Rage Shot. No, I'm joking. This channel is way too small for a sponsor. Anyway, we need to recap the FFL's off-season, which I know this is fantasy football. Why was there be an off-season? There should only be like rule changes at most. No, this is not the usual one. This is a dynasty, so teams get to keep players, and there were also some other changes, so let's get into that first. But first, with some fairly sad news, as the Stunner Boys will be leaving the FFL. This was expected from a lot of us in the FFL, but I'm not going to get into that at all on this channel. Don't worry, nothing bad happened. The owner was just not able to keep up, and he's been one of the worst teams in the last few years because he hasn't been able to do anything, especially not even drafts, so probably better for everyone that he's not here, but it was a good run. He had some very good players. But in his replacement, we are adding the Washington Walruses, and they will have an expansion draft eventually. But yes, we have a brand new team coming in for the old one. But even before the expansion draft, we still need to recap all of the re-signings. Each team only gets to re-sign 4 players per offseason, so let's get into every single one. And you know what? Let's start with the 2024 FFL champions and the 2024 Coach of the Year in Love Season. And yes, that is still his name. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin, so having like Jordan Love's seat, yeah, I mean, it's kind of still staying that way. Anyway, Love Season decided to re-sign BTJ, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, and of course, Jahmyr Gibbs, who was an All-Pro last year. I mean, these were the players that was able to bring Love Season their first title in their very first season of the FFL. They were just able to bet high on a bunch of young players, and it worked out, and they're bringing a lot of them back. And as the oldest here is Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's still really young, so yeah, I mean, they should still be very good. But now on to the Santa Fe Steve Beefs, and you might be wondering, this was not here last time, this was not a team. No, they rebranded from the Houston Honey Packets, which is already a hilarious name, to now the Santa Fe Steve Beefs. So, yeah. And this team did also make the championship game. They did lose, but it was also from them betting high on young players, as they were also an expansion team last year. So they ended up re-signing Jonathan Taylor, Brock Bowers, who made an All-Pro last year, Malik Neighbors, and of course Bijan Robinson. But now to my re-signings, as yes, I am the Wisconsin Weasels, as you probably know if you have watched any FFL video at all previously. Of course, I was the 2023 Coach of the Year, as I won the title that season, but I decided to keep Puka Nacua, Devon Achane, CeeDee Lamb, and the 2024 Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jayden Daniels. And, I mean, Puka, he immediately got hurt. Again, this is after week 1. Puka immediately got hurt. Achane was dog shit. CeeDee Lamb dropped a bunch of passes. He's still at 110 yards. And Jayden Daniels has not been looking great. And I could have kept Patrick Mahomes instead, who did much better. So, I mean, immediately not great, but I can't really blame myself for picking these guys because these really were the best players available that I had, so I'll take it. But now to the Rhinos. They kept Baker Mayfield, Calvin Ridley, Sam Laporta, who made an All-Pro as an R/W/T, and Xavier Worthy. Could have been better, could have been worse, but they're going to have to do a lot of work in the draft, and we'll get to that soon. Next up, the Janesville Johnsons. They re-signed the 2024 MVP and a one-time All-Pro in Lamar Jackson. They re-signed Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Mike Evans as well. Very, very good team immediately. A lot of fantasy points coming out of this. Of course, A.J. Brown did not immediately do stuff, but that's just how the Eagles work, but he should still be putting up points no matter what. Then on to the Charlotte Cobras. They re-signed Jay Jettas. He had an All-Pro, I believe, last season, maybe the previous year, I forget. C.J. Stroud, Ladd McConkey, and Joe Mixon. The San Diego Sharks re-signed Cooper Kupp, who is now a Seahawk, Jordan Addison, the 2023 Offensive Player of the Year in Josh Allen, the 2023 MVP in CMC, who of course was hurt, but he's still Christian frickin' McCaffrey, so it should be a pretty good team, but we'll see how it ends up shaking out after the draft. And then for the Cleveland Elves, a very, very good re-signing. Already had a fantastic team. They already had Smitty, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had an All-Pro, Jamar Chase, who was the 2024 Offensive Player of the Year, as well as an All-Pro, and of course, Joseph Burrow, who is always going to be putting up points. Maybe not immediately, but throughout the season, he is going to be in the MVP race, and that's because he puts up frickin' statistics. And finally, for the last team, the New Orleans Knights, they re-signed George Kittle, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Love, and finally, Joshua Jacobs. A solid team, could be better, but certainly not bad at all. But now, to get the 4 players that the Washington Walruses will be starting out with in their expansion draft. And this is mainly going to consist of pieces that were, of course, left behind by the Stunner Boys, as Saquon Barkley, who won an All-Pro for the Stunner Boys last year, was picked number 1 overall in the expansion draft. Before then, a little bit of a gamble, but I really think he's going to do great, as they picked up Ashton Jeanty in the 2nd round. Nico Collins, who should be putting up statistics, and then slightly confusing Drake London. I mean, I definitely understand it. He was one of the better players there. At least that was left, but could have done better. But they do still have the number 1 overall pick in the actual draft, which I actually heard some complaints about them picking number 1 overall after 5 straight picks. So I think probably next year they're going to be picking after, or whoever expands next year, or whatever happens, the next expansion draft, the team that's expanding will pick after the worst 2 teams that missed the playoffs. Just want to get that out there because, I mean, I can understand why it would be frustrating that one team that just got here already has 5 great players. So, but either way, let's actually get into the 2025 FFL Draft. And starting out round 1, the expansion Washington Walruses are picking Kyren Williams, number 1 overall. He's one of the better players remaining. They do already have 3 running backs, though. I don't hate it, but I feel like there was potentially a little bit better value, but definitely not bad at all, especially considering they do not have a deal. Then at number 2, the New Orleans Knights selected Breece Hall. The Roydville Rhinos picked up scary Terry McLaurin. Sharks went out and got Trey McBride. I love that pick. I mean, he was one of the best tight ends last year. I think that's a great pick. James Cook then goes number 5 to the Cobras. T. Higgins heads out to Cleveland. Zay Flowers gets picked by Janesville. I ended up going with Marvin Harrison Jr. Immediate thoughts, I didn't really love it, but honestly I think it was pretty much the best player that I needed at that point, so I really don't hate it. And now for the quarterbacks on the teams that don't have quarterbacks left. Patrick Mahomes II goes over to Santa Fe. Jalen Hurts then gets picked up by Love Season to end out round 1. And this is a snake draft, so immediately Love Season gets Jalen Hurts another weapon with the Cheetah, who's an All-Pro in 2023. Travion Henderson, though, then goes quite high, in my opinion, to Santa Fe. I pick up James Conner because I think the Cardinals' running game should be good again. Kyler Murray then gets picked by the Janesville Johnsons, even though they do already have Lamar Jackson. A little bit confusing, but hey, you know, to each their own. And then from here on out, I will just be commenting on the most interesting players, and then I'll give a full overview of all the teams separately. Round 2, fairly normal. Matthew Golden goes to the Rhinos at number 18. Then into round 3, another All-Pro is taken as TJ Hawkinson was the best tight end in the league in 2023. And then a massive surprise, Isaac Test goes to New Orleans at pick 22. That is crazy high in my opinion, but that catch that's on is freaking, oh my god. I mean, you know what? For just that catch, that's more than worth it. And then Travis Hunter goes to the San Diego Sharks at 24. I have him listed at a wide receiver DB. I don't think in fantasy you could play him at DB, but then again, I think he'll still get DB points if he gets a pick or whatever. So very interesting pick and slightly risky, but you never really know. He could end up being really good in fantasy. Then Omarion Hampton goes to the Elves. This is who I was really wanting to pick, so I then had to settle for RJ Harvey. I didn't think there was really a bad pick. I definitely wanted Hampton more because I think he would have had a much bigger role in the Chargers, and so far it's been proven to be true. But RJ Harvey, I think, has a lot of upside, and I did not hate taking him at 28. Kelsey then goes at 29. Before in round 4, I finally get my quarterback, going with Bo Nix at pick number 33. I absolutely love this. I now have Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. I think that's basically a perfect quarterback room because if one of them's having a great season, I just put them in, and one of them should be having a great season at some point. So, they're both really, really good. I think this was a just masterful decision by me, personally. Not to toot my own horn, but hey, I really like the decision. But then only 2 picks later, the Elves immediately go with a rookie, Tyler Warren. Interesting pick, but I don't hate it. And then we end out round 4 with the Walruses picking up Justin Fields, obviously immediately after week 1, looking like a fantastic pick, especially at the value at pick 40. But yeah, no, that's a great decision for an expansion team. And then in round 5, they pick up Chris Boswell. 41 picks into this draft. A kicker is gone. And this happens every year. I don't know why they do it. I think you just see that the kicker's open after you've already got your starters on offense, and you're like, oh, I'll get the best kicker. I picked my kicker in round 17, okay? And we'll get to that eventually, but it's just confusing, man. And, of course, Brandon Aubrey was picked 4 picks later. He is an all-pro, but it's a kicker, dude. Dicker, the kicker, was picked right next after that. And I guess another confusing one here was George Pickens getting picked at Love Season's 50th pick. I don't know if I love that. But then also, the Janesville Johnsons went ahead and got Nicholas Bosa at pick 47. And I don't know if you know this. If you, I'm assuming most of you do not have defensive players on in fantasy football, but the D-line is easily the second least valuable position, right behind kickers. They just don't put up sacks as much. Sacks just aren't as worth it as, how much they get. It's just not, they don't get as many tackles. It's just not worth it. So to pick an old Nick Bosa this high, I just don't understand it, but this did start a generational run at not only kicker, but also at defense, as we get into that in round 6, as 3 kickers were taken, 3 defensive players were taken. Zach Bond, who was the defensive player of the year, going back to his old team in Cleveland, an all-pro. Zaire Franklin, also an all-pro, goes to Charlotte. And then Budda Baker heads over to the Walruses, also an all-pro. I picked Jonnu Smith. I thought this was a fantastic pick. I don't know why everybody was picking freaking kickers and that stuff. Oh, Tyler Bass. I missed Tyler Bass. There was 4 freaking kickers. Holy cow. Although, San Diego did get Herbo. I think that's a fantastic value at that spot, as well as Jerry Jeudy, considering there's kickers and linebackers getting picked around him. Although linebackers, much more valuable than D-line. I think that makes a lot more sense. Same with DBs. Like, this Bond, Franklin, and Baker, definitely worth it more than Nick Bosa, but yeah, whatever. It's a horse apiece. I don't know if I used that saying correctly, but either way, Robert Spillane, whose first actual name is John, goes first in round 7. Also, I don't know if you can hear this. There's a lot of squeaking. Oh my god. There's no torture of small children or animals, I promise. That is, I'm not even lying. We just got a new puppy, and we already have 2 others, and it is freaking the hell out already. I'm sorry about that. I promise there's nothing devious going on. My god, he's just freaking out. Anyway, Myles Garrett, who's an all-pro, goes to New Orleans. With the run on defense, I don't know how I feel about it at this point. Caden Ellis goes to the Cobras at 65. Don't love that at all. Nick Cross goes to the Elves. He was an all-pro last year. Same with Trey Hendrickson going to the Johnsons. Juan Smith, I actually finally had to pick defense because I needed to at least get some good defensive guys. I can't have terrible defense. Then Kobe Turner to the Santa Fe Steve Beefs, and then Brian Branch, who wasn't all-pro last season, goes to Love Season. And again, I just had to start picking defense. There was then Fred Warner, Brandon Fisk. I had to take Kyle Hamilton, which I thought was a great value at that point. Then it was just a lot of defense. In fact, not a single offensive or special teams player was picked in this round. Max Crosby, who was an all-pro, goes to the Knights. Then in round 9, finally we get another offensive player in Braylon Allen going to the Rhinos. Then Harrison Buck to the Sharks. Just more defense. Then round 10, just a lot more of the same. No offense, no nothing else, just a lot of defense. Round 11, again, a lot of the same. However, I did end up picking DeAndre Swift. Did not like him. I really didn't, and then I thought about how the O-line's gotten a lot better. They have Ben Johnson. They should be running it a lot more. I felt like at this point in the draft, this was a perfect place to take DeAndre Swift, and I'm glad I got him because he could be really, really good, or I could just release him when he's not good. Oh my god, that dog is actually freaking the hell out. Anyway, round 12, Jalen Waddle was picked. He's offensive. Yeah, just a lot of defensive. Round 13, we're in the last final four rounds. Rome Odunze was picked. Caleb Johnson was picked. Emeka Egbuka, which would obviously become a very good selection very quickly. Round 14, we're back to filling out the gaps and the bench on offense. As, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Godwin, Jawan Jennings, Cam Scatterbo, just a lot of guys that have a lot of upside, but are a very low risk to take. Round 15, a lot of the same, of course, filling out some extra defensive pieces. Then in round 16, Bill Krosky Mero is picked. Apparently, he's good literally from thin air. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I then start finishing out my defenses. I just picked Will Anderson, and then I picked Keon White. The rest of the league is just finishing out the offense. And then finally, round 17, I finally picked my kicker, and it's the All-Pro kicker from last year. Yeah, I just picked kickers in round 17. I mean, the Royville, he did that. He picked Cam Little. So, yeah, I mean, the final pick of the draft was Kyle Pitts. And, I think that's a fine pick. And yeah, that is the 2025 draft. But hold on, bucko. Do not click off quite yet. I still have some stuff to get through. We have some transactions that happened immediately after the draft and in week 1. I just want to get those out of the way as well, so you can actually get the full vision for the rest of the season. As immediately after the Royville Rhinos dropped Braylon Allen for Chamari Connor. I guess they just didn't have a defensive guy, and Braylon Allen was expendable. I don't hate it. Don't love it as well, but it was a need, and they met that need. And then Love Season got rid of Christian Gonzalez for the All-Pro Antoine Winfield Jr. I mean, if it works, it works. I mean, Christian Gonzalez is one of the best corners in the league for an older Antoine Winfield, but maybe he knows something I don't. Then I made a little bit of a transaction as I gave up Keon White, which I felt like, yeah, I mean, he could be good, but to get Hutchinson, like, as long as he's not hurt, he should be one of, if not the best D linemen in the league. I think this is a great move by me. And then the Knights, of course, Tyler Bass got hurt, so we swapped him for Evan McPherson. Actually, I think Tyler Bass, yeah, you just put him on injured reserve, so he still has him, but Evan McPherson is their kicker for now. The Cobras then got rid of Alante Taylor for Jordan Battle. A lateral move. I think Alante Taylor was pretty good in week 1, so, you know, could have been better. And then we get into the transactions after week 1. Jared Goff was swapped out for Danny Dimes by the Rhinos. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Danny Dimes is going to be good throughout the whole season. I think this was just because he was playing the Dolphins and it was Jim Irsay Day and whatever. I don't love this, but you know what? Knee-jerk reaction off of week 1 and you already have Baker Mayfield. It's not a terrible move. Love Season got rid of Jalen Warren for Williams. And I mean, pretty lateral. I mean, of course, Javonte, he was good in week 1 against the Eagles, but he's on the Cowboys. I don't think he'll be too consistent, but you never know. It could be a good move. I definitely like him over Jalen Warren, though. And then the Cobras, of course, Joe Mixon and Rashee Rice both got hurt or suspended or whatever, and they instead brought up J.J. McCarthy for both of them being on injured reserve. Fantastic move to get J.J. McCarthy. He should be good, probably. I mean, he looked really good in week 1, but, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, but I think it's a good move when you already have C.J. Stroud. Then the Knights added Keenan Allen as George Kittle, of course, got hurt in week 1. Still had a good game either way, so I mean, this is a very good move by them. Keenan Allen, he looked good as well. The Rhinos then got rid of Rashad Bateman for a better Ravens receiver, potentially D-Hop. I think this may have just been completely because of that one-handed catch. I mean, he had a good game, but, like, Rashad Bateman, I don't know. I think it's a good move because neither of them should be getting a ton of starting minutes for them, but you know what? It's a fine move. The Cobras then got rid of Kevin Byard for Teron Johnson. Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Just very lateral, but it's DBs, so I think Teron could be better. Then the Johnsons swapped out Dalton Kincaid for Harold Fannin. I really like the potential of Harold Fannin. He was one of the best college tight ends of all time, and I like the potential, but they already have David Njoku right there with a bad quarterback situation, and Dalton Kincaid has Josh Allen, but he's also not starting either one of them, so I think it's a fine move. And then the Johnsons got rid of Calais Campbell for nothing for now, but they did get rid of Calais Campbell. And then finally we got a trade as Love Season gave up Javonte Williams for Tucker Kraft from the Johnsons. I think this was a good move by both of them. Javonte has a lot of potential with the Cowboys. Tucker Kraft, however, had a fantastic Thursday night and already week 1. So, not looking great so far for the Johnsons, but I understand the move. And they're still figuring things out, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Love Season then got rid of Mark Andrews for Quentin Johnston. I think this is a pretty good move. I think Quentin Johnston is finally out of his drops a lot rookie season, and he should be a very effective piece on the Chargers offense, especially compared to Mark Andrews. However, they immediately got rid of Quentin Johnston for Dylan Sampson, who is another player that I think should be very, very good. I really like this move, although it was very pointless to get Quentin Johnston and then to drop him. But then the Janesville Johnsons do finally make up the dropping of Calais Campbell as they picked up Mark Andrews. I mean, with their whole tight end situation, I think this was a good idea, and they're still figuring things out, as I said. But here are the final teams. Let me know who you think is going to win it all. I will be doing another one of these, just recapping the regular season, and then one recapping the Super Bowl and the playoffs. But I'm excited for the 2025 FFL season, and I'll see you in week 15 of the NFL season, something like that. Hope you enjoyed.